do not wait. Create. Do not wait. Create. Do your own projects. Invest in your own projects. Make. I was going to tell you this, actually. I thought of you last night when I listened to her say this.
Uh-oh.
She was saying that my advice for filmmakers is stop making shorts and do features, because the amount of money that you're putting into this short, you might as well just make a feature. Make a feature, do the whole thing. Don't do the little short. Go all the way. Make the feature. And I thought of you last night when I heard that, and I'm here to tell you that today.
I did not think I was going to be read today.
Ava DuVernay, via me, has told you make the feature. You heard it here first. I told him make the feature. What do you get the imposter out your head? Imposter.
I didn't think she was going to read me like this today. Okay, welcome to Tone Deaf Conversation Podcast. And here I am sitting in the wooden chair in the middle. I'm sitting here because I deserve to be here. Why, you ask? Because I am not alone today. I found two people who felt that I was worth their time, and they came to talk nonsense with me. I have on my left. Hey, on here it says Nikeva Stapleton.
That is my name.
But I see you as Nikeva Marie on
my social. Marie is my middle name, so my full name is Nikeva Marie Stapleton.
I never noticed.
That's my full government.
You
think my last name was Marie?
You're Nikeva Marie in my phone.
Well, that is perfectly fine. I love that. I like the ring. That's why I kept it short. Nikeva Marie. But Stapleton is my last name. Yes.
She's been in Black is King, Sherman's Showcase, American Soul, She's Gotta Have It. I still haven't seen that series. My wife's watched it, but I haven't seen the series.
And I'm still getting residuals. So go ahead and watch
Nice. Marlon with Marlon Wayne's movie Naked. Iman and the Light Warriors. I actually knew somebody who was like on the crew.
Who? We'll get to that.
Pop star, never stopping. Chirac, Beyonce's Pretty Hurts. We have Nikeva Stapleton. I need to have a soon I'm gonna get a thing or like a fake audio track.
Yeah, like the audience.
And
clap.
We can
I have on my right. I've been trying to pronounce your name the right way. No. I think I got it.
Oh.
It's Iantha, right? Iantha. You know why?
So close.
Because I was at my mom's house last weekend and the weekend before last, and she was watching Iyanla Fix My Life. And for whatever reason, when I would start to try to say your name, I would say her name, so I was trying not to say Iyanla.
It's a cadence. They just spell differently. But yeah,
Iantha.
You were close.
No.
Cool. I like the cool. I just the A, the instead of Antha, I said Anta. Iantha. She's been in American Soul, This Is Us, Good Trouble, Jones, the short film Log Off, Benny Got Shot, Truth or Dare, Journey of a Goddess, Why Are You Single, the stage play, and The Big Show. Iantha Richardson. I might add it in post. So how are you ladies doing today?
So good.
Swell. This is fun. This is exciting. Thanks for having us on the Tone Deaf.
Yeah.
I actually forgot that was the name. Very clever.
That was my first time hearing it.
the name is not mine. I think I have a friend, his name is Mike. So we're supposed to be starting a podcast, a sports one. And we were going to, in each podcast, we were going to give each of us a segment, if you will. And like for Mike, his was going to be Mic Check. So you're thinking, okay, perfect, that works. And then for me, I couldn't think of what to do. So both of them came up with one. And one of them said something with like tone deaf or something like that. And then the other one said set the tone. And I was like, okay, I like set the tone. So then when this started, I said I'm taking tone deaf.
Okay.
I'm just gonna steal it.
Fair.
And I'm not gonna pay you anything for it. But I will give him credit.
What's his name?
For it. His name is Mike. Mike and
Thanks,
Lamar.
Mike.
And Lamar is. I
Tone
won't say anything else because we're trying to do it, and I don't want to spoil anything.
We look forward to it.
But yeah, but that was going to be our sports podcast. But I figure I have an opinion, even though no one asked for it, about all things movie and the arts. So I figured it would be cool to have people who also have opinions on certain things. So you two are my first actors that have been on here with any type of previous movie work. So I'm interested. I'll be interested in what you guys' opinions are on some things. So first, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it came up in the whatever. So, okay, I'll ask a question first. And this might sound loaded, but being a woman in LA who is also Black, trying to navigate through this industry, what have been your experiences? It doesn't matter who goes first.
In what way? Can I ask
your question? Okay, let's break it up. Let's talk about what have been some of the pitfalls that you feel like you've experienced being a woman of color, an actor, woman of color. Have you experienced any pitfalls? Do you feel like maybe some opportunities you haven't been able to experience because of it, or maybe some type of treatment? Or
I'll go. I was looking at this post yesterday that it talked about Gambit and how it basically still represents people of color or women of color being the friend stereotype in a lot of shows, which is very interesting. And I often talk with other friends just about the industry and how, of course, all people of color are on the rise. We want to be seen now. We're at the forefront of the industry, but at the same time, it's still not a ton of work for us. We have a lot, but it's not as much as everyone else. So I think it's really cool that we're being sought after for who we are and what we bring to the table. But it's about keeping the consistency in there. So as far as answering your question, I have found it to be really fun to come up in the industry in this time, just because I get to do more than the people who came up probably 5 years ago. I don't have to be the best friend. I don't have to be the help. I don't have to be a lot of the stereotypical roles that are made for people of color. I'm kind of lumping in all people of color at the moment, but Black people, to be specific, also I don't have to do those roles. I'm allowed to be more expansive, and the further we push the envelope, the more excited that I get about new things that are coming out and how it's being normalized. I'll start with a Lovecraft Country. I love it, and I think it's something that you just never see Black people in those spaces, which is why it's so uncomfortable. I know I was uncomfortable when I first watched the series, just because it's we're in the rural South, Chicago / in
Southward.
the 60s, southward, still
or at least during the Jim Crow
era.
Yeah.
Still, yes, we are still being very Black in a lot of the ways that we're moving about in the space. Culturally, we're embracing our culture, I'll say that. But at the same time, we're allowed to be complex beings. We're allowed to travel in time. We're allowed to play with fantastical characters and aliens and things of that nature. And so it's just really interesting to see all boundaries pushed in gender, race, time, space, all of those things, while still being able to embrace the culture that we have been. And then also, on the other hand, not having to stay in a monolithic cultural realm in other spaces. Like, we're also allowed to be the race that we are and complex beings at the same time in a lot of things. So it's a cool time. The pitfall is there's still a lot of work to do, I guess, in a general sense. I could talk about, like, on set what pitfalls are, but I think in a general sense there's a lot of work to do. But the cool thing is it's being the allowance for that work to be done is happening currently.
Do you feel like there's anything maybe unique to either one? Like, maybe this wasn't because you were a Black woman, but specifically because you were a woman, that there were some things that you know.
Oh yeah,
because I feel like that might happen maybe even more
as a woman.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, I have a lot of times on set, I feel like my voice hasn't been heard intentionally by, like, directors who are not comfortable with hearing from a woman. I have even worked with women directors who have made sure that a man gives a note to an actor because they felt like the actor wouldn't receive it from a woman director. So I do think that there are a lot of spaces where it's like, all right, well, I know you're not going to listen to me if I say it, so let me get somebody else to speak for me in this space. And then when this man will speak for me, then you'll listen. I just need it to be heard so we can get through this a lot faster. Yeah.
Now's not the time to fight this fight. I gotta get these days. I gotta get the.
And then I'm going to look like the angry person. And then at some points, like, I've also seen myself and others be like, all right, I'm going to be that angry person today, and you're just going to have to call me a B or whatever, because that's the fight that I want to do, but it's picking and choosing your battles. That's just what it is. And I've heard it from so many people that are just like, I've been called a, can I say the B word? I've been called a bitch so many times.
On set?
Not me, but I've heard it from, I've heard Issa Rae say it in interviews. She's like, I have been called a bitch. And you're just like, well, you're in a place of authority to the point where, of course, there are a lot of eyes on you, people who aren't used to you being in that authority. And, of course, they're going to consider you asserting that authority and stature off kilter for them, which could translate to them as a bitch because you're not being submissive in the space.
I want to circle back to what you said about being in this time, and it's actually kind of a good time for us, or better than it's ever been.
Of course.
I would argue, and because I noticed how long I had to really think about what pitfalls I've faced as a Black woman in the industry. Like, I had to really think about it because I don't think that I've directly had any things happen to me that were offensive or unfair, but I do, when I was thinking about that, I noticed that all the projects that I've been on are Black projects. Maybe not every single one of them, but heavily, like Sherman Showcase, American Soul, like, these are Black Klansmen, Chirac, She's Gotta Have It, like, these are all Black things. So I'm like, wait a second, you know, those are the only projects that have opened doors for me thus far. I'm also, you know, new, let's say this has all happened within the past 4 years. So but it's still telling, I think, you know, and as Iantha said, there are roles, but there's not all that many. And then to integrate the white space, the roles are fewer. I mean, we still see billboards with, like, white on white, and then Black friend, and white on white, and then Black face. Like, so I think that like she said, there's still more work to do. But what I do see happening is that a lot of Black projects, or like a Jordan Peele, are able to create their own thing because they're maybe not getting in through the Hollywood doors they want. So they're creating their own, they're hiring their own. And so we have this kind of divide, not harsh divide, but it happens. And yeah, that was just a really reflective moment for me, because it's not like I'm going after those projects in particular, but those are opportunities that have been brought to me. I have a white agent, and all white agents for dancing, acting, modeling, and yet still, at least in the theatrical realm, like, those are the projects that I have landed thus far. And then in terms of roles, I always think about times where I've had pieces of work that want, like, the black girl, and it's very stereotypical still of who that black girl needs to be and how she needs to talk. And myself, being of mixed race, white and black, I often, many times look at the script and I'm like, well, I'm not black enough for this character. They're not going to think that I'm black enough for this character, because they have an idea of what they want. Jumping forward to American Soul that Iantha and I were on together, I felt like our roles were so good for us each. But I remember reading for Iantha's, and my first thought was like, oh, this is so good for her. She's this like soulful black woman. I could see her as this. And then when my role came about, I'm like, oh, but this is me. But that was, you know, a great space that opened up for two black actors that were not one and the same as the black girl. But yeah, that's been my experience.
I love that because I feel like the allowance for, well, I will say one thing, like a pitfall that, and it could be my own preconceived notions of like networks and what people want me to be. Like there's a tricky like in between as an actor. I'll say like you want to be directed and you want to be directable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do not want to be directed into a stereotype, or I know I don't want to be directed into a stereotype. So when I find myself in spaces where, whether it be a white or a black or a whoever, like Asian director, telling me how to be more sassy or whatever calls for that, I know that's not me and it won't be authentic in the space. And I know that if you hire me, you weren't probably hiring me for that, because I just don't exude that nature naturally. But a lot of times I have felt myself on set, and I know others have felt themselves like being pushed into this like sister girl sassy nature of a being, because that's what they want this black girl to exude, which is a stereotype in itself. And that has been a pitfall for me, to not always have to be big or loud or mad or angry.
Attitude. And we've even had like in classes where I've had teachers, you know, give me a correction that they, or direction that they wouldn't give somebody else because of the way that they expect it to come up to read on me. You know, be a little bit more aggressive, or
so when
have
you guys,
a little bit more attitude. And I was like, I have to have attitude, but she doesn't have. Like it reads more on me because that's what you expect to see, or that's the blackness that you're looking for. Be it, you know, just some lines on a page, but the way that I read it and the way that this girl reads it of a different ethnicity, race, you're gonna direct it in the way that you
essentially saying like a casting director would rather see us like this than this.
What's the demographic on, like you mentioned that like all your agents are white, like what's the demographic on, you know, agents, casting directors, are they usually white?
It depends. I mean, I think there are far and few between. Like, I don't think there are a lot of black casting directors, but the ones who are doing it. Like, they're great.
They're very staple. And then in terms of Asians, I mean, there's definitely a handful as well.
But it's not the massive. It's WME is not black Asians.
Right. Like there's a handful, and you know everybody wants to be part of M88 and Macro and the head of the head, but.
I often use like Black Panther as a perfect example, because it's a Disney movie. It's a Disney Marvel movie, and I don't think we ever lose that fact. It still always feels like it's a part of the entire Marvel universe. But you can tell that there was us involved in the making of it. Whether it was, you know, from costumes to working on dialect to just the way it's written. You can tell when, I mean, I think that's when we talk about representation and who's telling the stories. When it's someone who hasn't experienced a certain thing and they try to tell that story, it often sometimes comes off like, not that you can't, not that you can't learn about a thing. Like I can learn about another country and then write a script based off, but it's not going to feel as authentic as it is if I know. And I think, you know, like with Black Panther, you can tell that it had that touch, and I think it was Denzel during like the Fences, that little media push, and he was talking to a woman. I can only assume that she was black because of what he was saying to her, but he was talking about, it's not so much about race as much as it is culture, and he was like, because you and I understand the smell of a hot comb hitting black hair. And when he said that, like literally when he said that, I could hear it.
Yeah.
Like I could hear it. And it's like, if you've never experienced it, like that smell is unique. Like I know, if I know, oh, someone's got a hot comb and they're pressing their hair, because that's a very unique smell. Yeah. And if you're close to it, it's a very unique sound. And it's just the visuals of it. Again, not that someone who isn't black can't write that.
Right. But
there's like a certain sensibility, I think, that goes to it.
Right.
And I think even more so when it comes to, you know, these the dynamic of man versus woman, in that, again, I've been around enough women to be able to conceptualize certain things, but I still will never know what it's like to actually have to experience some of those things, which is why, you know, there are just some stories that are better told. But I was intrigued on what you said about Queen's Gambit, which I thought was fantastic, by the way. But I actually did a podcast that was titled Same Token, Different Black, where I had a friend who, he told me, he was like, you know, the token role has kind of changed. The token role has kind of changed in that now it may not, like, here, we'll give you a bigger role, but you'll still be, you know, so we mentioned Star Wars. I don't know if you guys watch Star Wars at all. So, guys, what's his name? He played Finn.
Boyega.
Yeah, John Boyega. So in the first movie, he's like the main guy. Mm-hmm. Like it's him. Mm-hmm. And in the first film, you think like, wow, Star Wars is really gonna push this. Wow, we got, you know, Black Stormtrooper. For me, being a Star Wars buff, I'm like, you know, sign me up. And then as the movies go on, his role is like, oh, wow. He still has a big role, but his character development diminishes as his white counterparts kind of get deeper. We get deeper and deeper into their stories until by the third movie, he just becomes another part of the game.
So interesting.
Whereas in the first movie, he seemed to be a very pivotal person, you know. So you okay, I'll ask this question. So I'm the aspiring director. So you have the opportunity to say to me what you would want to say to any director about your experience on set, what it is you'd like to experience and feel. What would that be?
Heard. I would like for it to be a collaboration and for there to be direct communication about what is needed, versus what I can assist or give to the space, not only in my acting but in my perspective of the character.
Yeah, I love the communication aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if the director can communicate with me often and in a language that I can understand, that is gold. Mm-hmm. I would love to feel so comfortable with my director that he can tell me. I mean, maybe it comes from being a dancer. I always think about this, but I love to take direction.
Yeah.
And it's whether I'm on set as an actor, dancer, or model, I love to take direction. If you know what you want, instead of having me like shoot my shot over and over with not really knowing, if you can articulate that to me, and maybe it's not, you know, maybe we have to figure out how the best way to articulate it and develop our own language, and I hold space for that. It's never going to be like, you know, maybe we're in sync off the bat, but not always. But at least the want to really communicate with me, and that way we can both get the best outcome.
Yeah.
Like, I hate going back, you know, after shooting something and feeling like, oh, like, is that what he wanted or she wanted? And because I feel like I have so many tools in my arsenal. I often feel like I can do so many things, and then the director like doesn't know that I can do so many things, but they're also not telling me. And I feel like sometimes it's in a way to be polite, like they don't want to say too much, like, oh, just do your thing. So many times people are like, oh, just do your thing. I'm like, okay, I can just do my thing, but what thing do you want? I have 100 things that I can do. So we can have a better outcome if you can tell me a little bit about those things that you're seeing in your mind, because you have a picture. You know, I'm not going to be offended, at least personally, I'm not going to be offended if you can paint that picture for me, and then I can try to play it out for you on the screen.
Yeah. And also, like, dedication to the art and not ego, because I feel like there are so many moving parts to the set that our director is definitely one of the prominent ones. If it's a director writer, that's a whole different thing. This is pretty much your set at that point. But if you're not a director writer, then it's like the director and the writer and then the actor and then the producers. Like, there's so many different people who have their hands in the pot that it's like we have to be ultimately communicating in such a direct manner that you have to communicate again with the writer to make sure you're getting what you need to, in television at least, because TV is essentially a writer's game, and movies are essentially a director's game. So depending on where you are is depending on what's needed the most from everybody in the space also.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Nikeva actually was in my first short.
Oh, dope.
Yes.
And it was kind of first it started off as just
the cops one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to write a scene.
Yeah.
I just wanted to write a scene. I just got my camera, that one, and I wanted to just write a scene. So I wrote a scene with Corbin.
Yes.
So it was just a scene with him and another friend, and we just, we would shoot this. An hour, and then he's like, "Yo, you could probably do more with this," and I'm like, I mean. So the history of our relationship, I think, has been me kind of shortchanging myself, and then her saying like, no, you should probably actually do more with this. So anyway, so when I'm like, okay, so Corbin's words to me were, okay, I have someone, but you probably should write a bigger role for her.
Oh, that was me?
Yeah.
Corbin!
So I'm thinking, okay, so yeah, if I'm gonna add someone else, let me at least give them some more something that makes it worth their while, so they can have something. Because I understand at this point, it's just real for me. That's all it is. So I feel like if I'm I need to give them something so that they can have for their reel as well. So, she played a cop,
like an FBI agent. I really, if the audio was better, that clip might still be on my reel to this day. There was a little like hiccup in I don't know if it was on your end, mine, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the scene was really good, and the writing was really good. And I felt very much. I mean, that's a character that I will play at some point, like this stern, badass, FBI, attractive cop, right? So it felt very on brand, and I really loved it. We just shot it in like an alley nearby.
Yeah, it was like down the street.
And
just shot in this alley.
Faye was in the back seat.
Faye was and
it was really good, and I loved the ankles that you grabbed.
So it was about a woman who got in trouble with the law, and then basically, in order for her to not have to feel the heavy brunt of it, she gets talked into being an informant. So the way the movie goes is it's not in order. So.
I know nothing else besides what the
So
scene
their scene,
but it was a cute scene.
So their scene is supposed to take place at the beginning. So it's interesting. Everything that I've ever written has always been like there's always been a woman at the center of it. I don't know why. It's not a thing that I've tried to do, but with that connection, there was this idea that here are two women, one who's made some bad choices, and one who's kind of like in a successful career, on a successful path, and what would their conversation be like? Because there's a point when she's talking to her with her partner, who's like the typical cop guy, and then there's a moment that they have with just the two of them, where it's kind of like, now this is less cop to criminal, but more woman to woman. You know,
I will say that in knowing you since then, now you are more direct and articulate with what you want.
No, so what I was gonna say,
I didn't know any of this.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. So I picked up very, very early on that, okay, yeah, so she if you don't tell her what she's supposed to do, she's gonna get it out of you somehow, because she's gonna. So she asked by far, she asked more questions than anybody I've ever worked with, which is fine. And it's not. I'm not saying that.
How you do one thing is how you do everything. I ask a lot of questions.
And I'm not saying anybody. It's for me, because
how you get to what you need. It's what you get. What you need.
Well,
you
both.
ask.
Okay, so both of you have worked with me when I did my black skin, and I think both of you guys. I'm not a big. I try to say as much as I can with the least amount of words, and just, and I often don't show my, I don't show a lot whether or not I like or don't like something. So I found that a lot when I used to do photography too, is that like they wouldn't know if they were hitting it or not, because
That's the worst feeling.
I'm not going like, oh yeah, that's it. No, I'm just, for me, I would have to say is like, yo, if I don't say anything to you, then probably you're doing good.
Yeah.
And if I say something, then that meant that I didn't get what I needed, and I'm trying to find the best way to say that. And you're not
alone in working like that.
Yeah.
I'll say on this was for She's Gotta Have It, with Spike Lee. The role that I had was a dancer at this club called Mocha Honey Dip. But there were
that sounds like that's a Spike Lee club.
Yeah, Mocha Honey Dip is my name. Okay. So, and I had been, in acting classes, so I was like, well, if someone throws me a line, I'm ready to hit it.
Yeah.
But that actually happened from Spike, and it was just like, okay, say this, and then I said it, and then he's like, okay, do this, and then I said it, and I just had to keep taking the direction and going, right? But he wasn't telling me ever if it was good or bad or what he wanted more of. He kind of was just like throwing it, and I would do it, throwing it, I would doing it, and then one of his like ADs whispered to me like, if he doesn't say anything, he likes it. Just keep going. I was like, okay.
I think it makes sense, and it's also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And it makes sense also when you're working under pressure. Like we had no time to get this shot in. I don't even think it ended up making it to the end. It was like between me and Fat Joe, but that was one of my learning experiences of like, okay, you can't always get feedback. Yeah. And I think because of the dancer realm, we're used to that feedback, and it feels good, whether it's bad or good feedback. It is informative. Yes. And so I noticed that I had to learn to depend less on that and know that when I'm doing my thing and when I'm not. And even as a model, like I don't ever need to see the camera anymore. If you're not telling me I'm doing it, like I know how to feel my body and know if I'm hitting it. But that just comes from working in the industry in all realms and learning that you're not always going to get the feedback. It is my personal preference. Yeah. Because I think that we could all, we're communicating. Yeah. But for time's sake, and like I think also the bigger the set or even the smaller your role, if you're a guest star or a co-star, like don't sit there and expect to get anything. Do your job and move forward.
And just television in general, anything that's episodic has a time crunch on it. So it's like,
I was gonna say, I feel like that's probably a lot.
They're just like, we gotta make the day.
Right. So but if you are, the main in a little short, right? I know I can speak for many actors, and I'm sure that they would love to get a little zhuzh from the director.
Yeah. Any movie, they're just like, you just have the time and the space to play.
If you have the time, let's talk about it.
I mean, if you even knew how awkward this is for me.
You're blossoming. You're doing better and better. Even when we did the robot one, which with David.
So I still want to. So okay.
That was great, and I just noticed that you are continuing to use your voice more and more. So this podcast platform is
big.
Great for you.
Because it's big. So for me, filmmaking felt ideal because it would be the way for me to say something without having to actually go out and say it. Now I don't have a problem with, like, I'm not like an introvert or like a shy person. I don't have a problem with crowds or anything like that. So it's not like that. It's just,
you don't like being in front of the camera.
I don't at all. I hate
That's
it.
fair.
I hate it. I hate it.
That's a lot
I
of people.
absolutely hate it. Which is
Well,
why
you look good. Looking at yourself.
Well, this is why. Well, that's why I'm trying to make sure, you know. So that's why I try. At least I try to be. I mean, the last thing I would ever want is to find out that, like, a set that I was responsible for, like, someone felt uncomfortable or anything like that, you know. So yeah, I mean, I try my best, and I know I'm still learning. So there are still, you know, there's still always things that I could pick up on when it comes to how to work with certain people. You know, you even hear like they say every director should take an acting class so that you know how to talk to actors. You know,
because we're like, what do you need? What do you guys?
But it's the thing is that, like,
more like this.
I think because I've only, when it like just jumping into this industry, the only people who I knew at first have only been actors.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's been really helpful. It's kind of understanding how different people work, because between you or David or, you know, you guys are all different.
Yeah.
And understanding, okay, you know, this is how certain people are. You know, it's funny. Like I DP for David a lot, and I know David is like, if we got to take 20 takes, then let's do 20 takes. And it's like, you know, you got to respect that. But for me, it's like, if I could do it in 2, then, you know, let's you know. So I'm trying to learn that balance where maybe there are places where I should be a little bit more assertive and say, no, actually I need this, because I know what it's like to go back and look at dailies and think, damn, I didn't get it.
I feel like the time thing, like when it comes to like what you need and being able to get different takes, like it is helpful for directors to take acting classes just because you're able to get to the point quicker with an actor. Like I was workshopping yesterday with the director for a show, and he knows funny. He's obviously done a lot of stuff, but even in the way that he articulated, like we were trying to find the joke, and the writer was sitting right there, mind you. Like, so we're all like trying to find how this hits, but it just helps so much to even just go to Leslie and know where a joke hits.
Yeah.
So now, like, I can read back for the lead girl. She was like, "Will you read it and I'll just listen?" And I was like, "Oh, I think the joke hits here just because of that awareness. I'm not even doing the joke, but the ability to know like where jokes hit in writing, like as a director, is so helpful, because then he would have been able to be like, oh, what he wanted to say in the space was, I wanted an antithetical. So I wanted you to repeat what she just said 3 times so that it's a 3. And that's what I'm hearing in the rhythm. But he was like saying it almost in the same way, but just didn't know how to fully function it. But if he knew how to say it and he went to that acting class, he would have been able to say it a lot quicker and knew what he was going for in the rhythm. That makes sense. So
I think for me, because I've to this point, I've only ever shot stuff that I wrote that I kind of know
the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
But
how you want it to.
One of the things that I've tried to that I've always been open to is, especially because so far, since I have only ever done, you know, my own stuff, I've never been under like a super, you know, like deadline, like we got to do this now. So, you know, I am always open to the way that the actor interprets what it was that I wrote. And because sometimes it's better than what I was thinking, or maybe again, going into, you know, the whole inclusion thing, maybe I wrote something for a woman, but as a woman, when you read that, the way you interpreted it had different for you. Whereas maybe that didn't seem realistic to you, whereas probably we would, you know,
say it like this.
And I've always been open to, you know what, I think it might be better. I'm the type to where, you know, there might be a way that I want a thing, but I never have a problem with giving an actor a take or two to say, you know, but usually the first time it's, I want you to give me what what you gave me. Let me
Really
reel you in if I need to, or push you further if you didn't go far enough. But
which is fair because they also need to show up with having done their own work and their
you
own
hope so.
ideas.
Yeah, you hope so.
And not to say, like, going back on me who asked a lot of questions, like I would still expect myself to show up with my opinion, put my opinion on a display, and then did you like that opinion or do you want it differently? Because I can do it 5 million ways. That kind of communication.
So tell me, okay, so you mentioned that you guys have history in the game that I don't know of.
The game.
How long have you guys been doing this?
Acting?
Yeah.
Oh, probably like 5-6 years.
I moved to LA.
Seriously.
Seriously for me, like 4 years.
Also, when we worked together, that was around the beginning for you.
Oh, that was very beginning. I mean, I moved
also the same for me. Okay.
In 2015, 16, more like 16. So it's been about 4 years. But before that, I was dancing and modeling, and Iantha and I know each other from college.
Yeah.
We went to Fordham University and Alvin Ailey. We are very proud.
So proud.
We are proud BFA graduates of Fordham Ailey BFA program, and at that point, I was planning on being a professional dancer, and then graduated college and danced and modeled, and I always thought I was going to go back to law school after a couple years as a professional dancer, but then it's like, you know what, I want a voice on screen. So then I took some classes in New York, like little workshops, and I will never forget that one casting director, after it was a 2 or 3 week workshop, one of those you sign up for 3 weeks in a row on camera thing.
I did that too.
Yeah, that's another, you can get your feet wet. Like, let me see how this is. I still have some of those self-tapes. Hilarious. But I will never forget that she told me, she was like, if you want to do this, you could really do this. So you should really do this. And I was like, I get it. That's all I needed to hear. It was so clear. If you want to do this, then you could do this, and you should really do this. Like, it was very clear to me. And you always, I feel like in life, whatever you do, there's always moments that you never forget were little turning points, little kickers to go forward. And I was like, all right, that was an affirmation.
Yeah.
I do want to do this. And then I had my last affirmation before I moved to LA. The kicker was Marlon Wayans, who I met in New York, and I always told him he's my little angel, godsend. He stopped me as well and thought I was an actor. And asking me why I don't act, and I was like, well, I'm taking some classes. The casting director told me I should. She's like, you absolutely should. And that was another affirmation from someone that was, someone I admire. And so I flew out to LA on a one-way and started figuring it out from there. Iantha was already here.
I was here, but I moved for a dance. So I moved to get away from New York because it was way too cold. Basically.
Yes, the weather here is fantastic.
It's amazing.
I will say that as a Southern California lifer.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You can't find it anywhere else.
You can't. And I've been on the East Coast my entire life. So I think I went over here just for a change of scenery, and there were a couple of concert dance companies that I was interested in, like Body Traffic, LA Dance Project, and I ended up dancing for Lulu Washington when I first got out here. But initially, I came out here for Body Traffic. But the timing just didn't work out. They wanted me to move too fast, so I was like, but I loved LA Dance Project. Ooh.
No, you're good.
It was literally one of those companies that I was like, oh, I could do this. They only tour in Europe. I was very much so a contemporary ballet dancer. I wasn't modern. I wasn't fully ballet. That's what they did. I loved European-esque contemporary ballet. And I was like, oh, I'll go out here and I'll try it. And it just didn't end up working out. They had a full company. They only have 9 dancers in their entire company. So they were stacked. And I was like, all right, well, I'll dance for Lula. It didn't really work out. I still did the commercial dance thing for a little bit. And I was like, this isn't my thing. Like, I'm not a hip-hop dancer.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the space, like trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I was like, well, I'm going to take more acting classes. We'll see how it is. I don't know if I like it. There was no pressure there. I've done like the 3-week workshops in New York, and then at Ailey Fordham, they make us take an acting class. So those things as well. But as soon as I started taking classes, I was like, oh, I could study this and be happy studying. And that's the thing that was my kicker. I was like, if I know I enjoy the work of it, I can do it. I love being on set and all of that as well, but if I can enjoy being in class, then I knew I was able to do it. So went to every class under the book, and then I was like, okay, I can get an agent in this.
And we also overlapped in classes. So
yes,
I came out here, she had been out here a year, and we're both like, yeah, I think we kind of want to tap into this acting world. I'm really loving it, and she was really loving it. And, you know, I was soaking up as much as I could information from her about the acting classes that she had been taking, and I was kind of like piggybacking, like, okay, I'm gonna go here, go there. I think we were in class together at Leslie Kahn, which I think we both can say we've learned so much from that school. And then she told me about auditioning for IDSA, and that was another turning point. Thank you for that. Which is a drama school based in Britain, but they opened up here, and I was in the first class of that.
Nice.
And then
we booked a show together, which is crazy. We were best friends on the show.
We like literally.
You played best friends on the show.
Like
nice.
But no, what's even more crazy is that the role, like we were both dancers. Yeah. Like so now here we are in real life dancers moving into actors, but then on screen
we're
and
playing
dancers and friends, right?
Nice.
And then even like I said at the beginning, the characters, like her character was Iantha, my character was Nikeva.
Yes.
And then it's like Nikeva and Iantha,
crazy.
Or Evelyn and Tessa.
I was like, who am I?
And you know, and we'd also train together not only as dancers but as actors. So it was so magically easy, like.
So synchronous.
You know, it was so synchronous. She came to my hotel the night before to like help me with my lines. I'm like, okay, just want to make sure I'm doing this right, because I think that was my first guest star, and I was so prepared, probably over prepared. It was we had an awesome director. It was such an amazing week in Atlanta, and it was so great to be able to work with Iantha and like have. I mean, how dope is that to have your friend? Like I felt so held.
Yeah.
And so comfortable, and I felt like $1 million. I'm like, fuck, champion over here.
So awesome.
Yeah, it was such a great. It was like a gift from God. It was so amazing that we got to do it together. Yeah. And maybe there's more down the pipeline for us to overlap.
It's gonna keep going like this.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I don't have such a affirming moment. I mean, people are all different, and I'm often inspired by failure, where like I don't like to not like if I'm not doing something, it's got to be because I don't want to do it, not because I can't do it. Like that doesn't sit well with me, you know. So I've kind of jumped from different art back, you know. So I went to school for graphic design and marketing, and I still do graphic design to this day. But I bought a camera because I actually had a friend who got in trouble because they designed something and they used a picture off Google, and the person whose picture it was happened to live in the same city as us. Wow. And like fortunately she didn't like sue or anything like that, but they were able to work something out. And I was saying, okay, maybe I should have my own camera so that if I ever want to use any, you know, anything, I could take my own pictures, and that way I don't have to worry about anybody, you know, dealing with ownership. So the thing about it's almost like if you have a truck, people call you to ask you to help move stuff for whatever reason. And it's like if you have a camera, then people call you and ask you to shoot something. Like it's a birthday party and like, hey, bring your camera and stuff like that. So I went to record something. I don't even remember what it was. I just know I was really bad. It was really bad. Like it wasn't good at all. And I was like, I don't like that. It's not good. So then it was like, so then I kind of got inspired to do it better. And as I'm working on trying to do it better, then I kind of realized then I kind of realized that I got a different feeling from this than from any of the other, you know. And I don't know, it's just something about this medium to me is different. I mean, it's still creating. You know, I've done painting, I've done drawing, I've done photography, I've done graphic design. It's all some of the same side of the brain.
Yeah.
But this is more my speed because there's a good mix of ambiguity but structure. Because I used to hate being in these art classes. I hated it because I couldn't stand artists. I couldn't stand them because I thought they were all full of it. Like, matter of fact, I guess I owe like good grades to some of them because I would half do some project the night before and then bring it in, and then when I put it up on the wall, then some guy or somebody would be like, "Oh wow, I think, you know, I'm really feeling that he was conflicted in his butt," and all this BS, and I'm like, man, what are you talking about? Like, I did that in 10 minutes last night because, so if anything, I was conflicted because I didn't want to fail this. So I'm like, man, there's just like, I used to hate the way that artists would talk about their art. It would just come off as condescending. Like, it's like, man, it's just scribble on a page. So to me, the idea of there being something more there, but then still being structured, like there's still a form to this, and then inside of that form, you can make something that, you know. So I think it's just enough of both sides of the brain to click for me, and you know.
Do you refer to yourself as an artist now?
I you know, it's a funny thing. Even calling myself a filmmaker is weird to me.
I think that's a little imposter syndrome.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay, I do, as an artist, I do have a split personality. There's a part of me that feels like there's no difference between me and Scorsese. You give me Scorsese's resources and I'll make Goodfellas. But then there's the other part of me that feels like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, you're in over your head. Like, you're stupid for this. And I go back and forth. Literally, sometimes on a daily basis. Where some days I wake up and I think,
that's what it is.
I can write the best. I can write the best script.
Pretty sure.
I can write the best script in the world today, and then there's tomorrow, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? Let me stop this while I'm not too old. I can figure something else out, and
I'm glad we just uncovered.
I mean, I knew it, and I think to an extent it helps me because it keeps me grounded.
I mean, we all go through. I asked you that because it took me. I didn't refer to myself as an artist for a good minute, and I've been a dancer since I could walk. But for some reason, I also, because I was an athlete in high school, very much like not part of the thespian world at my high school. So, you know, even though I was a dancer, I was also running track and like at every basketball and football game, and those were my friends.
I did too.
Yeah, and then going to college.
I did.
I ran track one year.
Yeah.
Jumped. I was triple jump.
I did triple jump.
Triple jump, high jump, and I would do the 300 hurdles.
I did triple, high, long, 100, 200, 400.
I just ran.
I played basketball.
I race walked.
Basketball was my thing.
Race walked. Wow.
That's hard.
Race walked?
Did you have special shoes?
No, it's just a technique in walking. Like, I would never really.
Wait, this is in high school? They had race walking at your school?
No. It's like a community team, like county teams. So when you did competitions, and like all of DC would be there. But race walking was one of the events in track and field.
We did not have that on the Illinois track and field. But yeah, then going to college, like I was around more artists than I had ever been because being at Lincoln Center, away from the Bronx campus, it was like the artsy fartsy people. So it was different. I
never fit in with that crowd.
But I started to. Well, I grew a lot of friends from that group, and I think I softened as well and became more accepting and losing that imposter voice that I wasn't an artist. Like, I don't have to be, you know, I was thinking so negatively about this like thespian word or whatever. Even some of my friends would make fun of like, are you friends with the thespians? Oh, like, please relax. But anyways, so I say this to say that now I so easily say that I'm an artist because I'm an actor, I'm a dancer, I'm a model. Everything that I do is creative.
Yeah.
And I even changing my title in my Instagram to artist took me a second. Like my friend, I want to say it was probably a year ago. My friend was like, "Oh, I saw you change your thing to artist. Good for you." Like she's been telling me to do that for a while, and it's so interesting that we can let this judgment and this imposter and this resistance like get so strong, and it blocks you.
By the way, no one has ever told me that I don't belong. So it's completely self-inflicted. But here's the thing. I never that only happens by myself in the quiet. I've never been in like on the spot in front of people and then felt it then. Usually when I'm there.
Right.
And I guess that's when I kind of knew that, okay, maybe there's something here, because I felt like there's just a different mode to me, which is why I even enjoyed Mank so much. We were talking about it because there's some parts of the film that are on a set. And it's just something about a set to me that just it just feels, it feels like there's something there. And it doesn't matter how big the set is. The set can have 100 people or it can have 2 people, but there's just something about there being a camera and a story that we want to tell, and then saying action, and then having something happen and then saying cut.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just invigorating. So it's like,
I get such a high. Like I am in the best mood when I finish.
Me too.
Shooting.
It's funny. Actually, it's a flip for me. I'm in the worst mood when we finish.
Oh no,
I am in the best mood at the beginning because I have all of the positivity, and then at the end, all I do is second guess what happened.
Really?
Which is why a lot of times I can't look at what I shot that night. Because
I feel like it's always a puzzle piece. Like I feel like it's always one big game. Like there's so much opportunity, like you said, but then as you go, you have to figure out how to make everything like fit. And to me, that is what art is, like the collaboration between other people. You never know what other people are bringing to the table, and so therefore it's that rush of like, okay, I'm gonna bring what I have because this is all I have, but then I also have to figure out how to make it fit with all these other visions, and that is the flow that comes from the art, whether you're on set or dancing or I'm sure modeling or visual art. It's the flow that has to be allowed to happen in the space.
I just always I guess not every single time I'm off set, but more often than not, I just have this, it's like exhilarating and invigorating, and it's so similar to a runner's high to me. And from being an athlete, I know you guys understand that. It's like, or coming off stage, like there's just this hint of, like there's adrenaline rush. I feel really good. I feel accomplished. Even after Iantha and I do self-tapes all the time. When I finish a self-tape at Iantha's, you can ask her, I am giddy. Like so happy. I'll be driving home, like calling who I need to call, excited to, I just feel like I've
accomplished.
I feel so accomplished. I feel like I'm a champion. I'm like, all right, I did one more thing in the direction of my dreams, and I just bask in that euphoric.
It's so freeing, like all of it, like because you get to do something that's essentially creating life, and whether it's a self-tape, you're doing it on a smaller level, or on set where you are literally in another space of life with hair, makeup, costumes, and all that other stuff. You're creating life, and it feels like I get the same high that you're talking about, and it feels great.
And I would dare to say that I think it's important that same high that we get in the self-tape room with one-on-one, or in a short film with your close friend that's a director, or on a big set at Disney, like I think it would be optimal to experience the same high in all those situations, because no accomplishment is too small. It's all part of our journey. And if you can get to the space where you can create that feeling for yourself and that amount of excitement for yourself in all situations, no matter how small or big, then I really think you're thriving. Because that's the point of it all, right? Like, and especially if you want to get to a certain point, if you are creating that life for yourself every day, like I literally like to tell myself, I might have been on set for a little minute, but if I'm shooting something with you, I feel great. I feel like I am, because this could be, I'm looking at it in a vacuum, but this could be the same thing as shooting on set with a bigger name director
Yeah.
or for a network. Like, it's the same muscle that I'm working. So let me be so full in this moment and give it everything, because I'm creating the life I want.
Yeah.
I'm doing the things. You do the things, and you do the
Right.
things, you do the things, then you'll get to the other.
I feel like the word that comes to mind most heavily is create. And big thing for me is like, we were put on this earth to be creators, and this is just my personal perspective, but like, made in the image of God was a creator. We are made literally to create. So that high that we get from doing these things, whether it be arts, or you are a graphic designer, or you're an architect, or you're making a child, like whatever these things are, like, as long as we're creating, we'll create that space to feel freeing and open and excited. And that's exactly what you said, like in a self-tape room, just the same as on Disney's lot. You're creating something, and that's what you were born to do.
Even my wife said this when I put this set together. She was kind of like, yeah, see, that's what you. And I think, it's, sometimes you need other people to say it for you. But for me, anytime that I'm making something, there's like a unique feeling that comes with it, with putting a thing together. Because I'm even into like wood furnishing. That's cool to me.
That's cool.
So to me, just taking, and I don't know, I think a lot, how a lot of this stuff comes from, childhood, and that, like, one of the things that I don't ever remember is like anybody ever being called to the house to fix something, because anytime something needed to be done, my dad did it, and I often got drug into it. And what I found is like there was like this kind of unique feeling with doing something. Like, you had an idea for something, you got what you needed to do it, and you did it, and then you kind of get to sit back and look at what you did, especially when what you did, you get to see or experience the benefit of it. So it's like, I made a thing, and it's not just anything. Like, it's a thing that actually works, and then I get to get something back from it, So, but you said something that's interesting, and I had this same experience. Well, I've experienced it a little bit, I think, in filmmaking, but I experienced it a lot with photography. Is, I think, because I'm going to say this, and I'm not meaning to.
Say it. Don't apologize. Go.
And I think, you know what, okay, so this, because it doesn't matter what space you're in, there's always somebody better than you. I've realized that. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter how great I get with a camera, somebody's better than me. But like when I was doing photography, it was like, to me, that's what separated the models that I dealt with, because all of them look good. Like, there's a bunch of women that look good. So what is it that's going to separate you? And I found that one of the biggest things is like attitude and professionalism. And because for me, it's like, listen, I understand. Well, we had this scheduled today. I would totally understand if you're like, yo, Jordan Peele called me, I got to go to this. I'd be mad at you if y'all didn't go to that to come here. I'd be like, wow, that was stupid. But I have experienced what it feels like to be the creative and the person who I am supposed to be collaborating with. You can tell they're not giving you the same energy that they would, like, if my name was Jordan Peele. And whether it's like you're like an hour late and then you act like nothing ever happened, or you give like half effort, to me, that's like, I mean, for me personally, I try to be that way, because I think I understand why a lot of directors use the same people. Because it's just easier to deal with people you already know. Like, I don't want to have to.
Any profession.
Yeah, I don't want to have to try and hope that I work out with this person. It's just better to know, the last time me and this person worked, we did just fine. So let's just bring that over here. So
it's also such an intimate workspace that the people that you have who are around you, you just want to be comfortable with those people.
So I know that even if you're a B-level actor, I'd rather hire you than that A-level actor. That's true. Who is really, really hard to deal with.
Really hard. Got you. Those two. I'm like, A-level versus B-level,
of
depending
course.
On like your.
Of course, and there are sometimes.
Do you mean like talent, or do you just mean like, what do you mean A-level? Yeah, their status.
More of like their talent. And like I understand if you know, if I got a chance to shoot with Halle Berry, you know, if she's an asshole, whatever, I'll just deal with that. But there is a part that's like, what am I bringing on here, and is it worth it? If it's worth it, then sure, you know what you get in the end, it was worth that little inconvenience. But if it's coming to the point where there's two of you, and there's not much separating you, but like this person is a pleasure to be around, then it's like, I'll go with this person. You know.
I mean, I think we should all aim to be a pleasure to be around.
I would hope.
People always remember the way you made them feel.
Yeah.
Always.
I would, I mean, that to me, that's the way. Again, I try to be that way in general. I know I'm not always the best at it, but I always live by. This is one thing my grandmother always told me. If I'm walking up to someone, I want them to be thinking, "Oh, cool, Antonio's coming," rather than "Here comes Antonio." You know, and you never want to be that person where when you walk into the room, then like everybody's like,
or even when I did the modeling shoot a couple weeks ago, the fact that your friend who you don't necessarily talk to all the time, but he had asked you about me, I was so like relieved and warmed by the fact that he said that you had such great things to say about me, and like it he had already booked me for the job, but it made him that much more excited to have me come to set. And then the fact that he told me that beforehand, I was like, oh, so let me make sure I bring my A game. Like it raises my own level as well, because I know that he's already thinking me as this higher self, so I want to match that idea. And then we had a great, and this was also a very small set. Like it wasn't, you know, the biggest job I've ever done, but I was like, let me show up and be the best that I can be for this person, because they're expecting that of me. And you know, now he wants to work again on something else, but thank you for those good words. But I was like, well, of course, good job,
because I wouldn't, you know,
showing up for you. And then that people talk, people know each other. The world is very small.
Very small.
I definitely have found that.
And recommendations are really the way things go.
So that's where I was going, is, you know, regardless of what the project is and who you're working with, because you really never know. I could be doing, you could hit me up and say, hey, I just wrote this little thing and I need help shooting it, and I shoot it, and who knows, somebody sees that thing, and the next thing you know, boom, we're flying. But then what if I would have just gave that half effort and it wouldn't have been good, and then that person wouldn't have seen it and liked it, you know. So at this point, I kind of see it as the long haul. Is that you know, I'm just taking a swing at it, and it might just be a bunch of base hits, but who knows?
You really never know. You never know. I always think of us like all as kernels in a popcorn pot. Like you do not know who's gonna pop next. And honestly, like once you get to a certain level, especially, the talent is very comparable, right? Like, but everyone has their time, and every role is for a certain person. And what's for you will not pass you, but you just don't know what's coming next. So it could be that your short is seen by someone. It could be that you direct, you know, one of your small projects and like it, or that I'm on set with someone as a model and they're like, oh wait, she's an actor, I want her for this. Like you never know who is next. How you do one thing is how you do everything, so show up fully in all those elements.
And it's just like, be a good person. So at the end of the day, whether you're the producer, writer, director, actress, the AD, the freaking like guy who's doing the gaffer, like be a good human. Now, does that dictate?
That seems simple, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's like, does that dictate like where you're gonna end up in the industry? Absolutely not. Of course. Absolutely not. Why?
There's a good balance
because there are so many assholes in this industry that are doing great things and somehow have gotten to these places. Well, but not everybody.
Right.
I think you can tell I think you can see everybody through what their work is. Like you can literally see their heart through their work and what they do and what they're capable of.
And I think the difference too is that like being a good person doesn't mean being a pushover either. Like and it doesn't mean being so humble that you don't know your worth
or
and that you can't
either.
Exactly. Like you can still think that you're the shit and you have your stuff together and show up and shoot with you for, you know, a 2-hour photography thing and not be an asshole. But like, you know, still be feeling yourself and get the job done, because it's people that feel themselves, I feel like, are the ones that move up, because you have to, no one's going to believe you if you don't believe in yourself. So if you show up everywhere believing in yourself but also being a good person, I would believe that's a nice way to climb.
I used to ask that used to be my icebreaker question whenever I would shoot with models, and some of the answers
for
would
you
be,
or for them.
well, because to me, you know, it would be awkward for me, so I had to give plus. And I understand this, and like this is why, you know, we kind of talked at the beginning about kind of like these dynamics of men and women. So I understand, at least, even if she's not feeling this way, I understand that there might automatically be a guard up in that, you know, being a model or an actor, it's already a vulnerable thing because you're putting yourself out there. But then also being a woman, and then you're in front of this man, there is a level of vulnerability there. And I always try to respect that, because I would never want someone to feel like I'm taking advantage of them. But one of the questions I was always asked is, like, what's your worst modeling experience? And some of the stories I heard would be like, wow, that's terrible. I mean, like, one is like, and again, in this industry, in this position, you get the opportunity to work with a lot of beautiful women. It just happens. And unfortunately, you have guys that take advantage of that. So let me write something or come up with this photo shoot that it's just a way of me being able to see this woman with little to no clothes on. And then knowing that you're in this spot, instead of saying, listen, let's get what we have to get quickly, boom, boom, boom. Hey, let's spend 40 minutes on this one look, just taking 200 pictures. When really we're only going to use 4 of them, but I like what I'm looking at. So I'm going to prolong this as long as I can, which I can only imagine what it would be like to be on the other end of that, you know, and knowing that in this very moment you're being objectified, but
I have a question.
You want to be, you know.
Do you feel like that's something that you can sense from someone who you would, not in a professional job, because I'm assuming that you're speaking of like.
I feel like I can. Yeah, I would definitely
before
be able to sense
go
that.
into that space.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that
you're a good energy reader, as am I. But I know some people don't read energy well, and so I'm like,
and also
is that
like
a
having
sense?
to read energy, you know, over a DM when they're asking to shoot with
that
you.
is a whole different thing.
So yeah, there's definitely I've filtered out a lot of requests based on, but really, I'm not even. To be honest, I'm judging off of the work that you have, and if that aligns with my brand or not. If you don't shoot and although I know that I am me and I will take a different photo than the 500 women you have shown here, the way that you have displayed them in these photos is not something that I want to shoot. That's pretty much where I leave it. If I don't like what I'm seeing, and then I don't put myself in the situation. And fortunately for me, all of the photographers that I've shot in, like I stopped myself.
Have one?
I have been in a situation that I was uncomfortable, but it wasn't the first time we had shot together, so it was like a build up. I think they got more comfortable, but I was able to read the situation when it was starting to turn, and I left the shoot. I mean, I got some great photos, and that's also, you have to be able to, like, it depends on how comfortable you are.
Yeah.
I am very comfortable. I am very assertive, and I'm able to put my foot down when it's not okay. And in that situation, I felt that, you know, the shoot was going on a little longer. You've had another too many glasses of wine, and I'm over it.
Wine.
So
That's
I'm
another...
gonna button up and leave.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. And I've never shot with that person again.
That's another commonality with some of those horror stories, is that almost all of them involve wine.
Because photographers love to drink.
In that, like,
when
as soon as like they would walk onto set, they were handed a glass of wine, kind of like.
Yeah,
Now
I've
I've had people
many times. I'm like, I don't need the wine to loosen up, but it's interesting that often the photographer needs it. I'm like, are you nervous?
No, I never. So, but I've noticed. So, like, even
What
so
kind
when
of
I
job is this?
when I
What
work
are you
with
doing?
Eugenia, she asked for something to drink, and that's fine, you know, because I know for some people they need whatever that
To be
is
in the
to
mood.
kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and that's fine. But you know, I have some, but I never offer it. I mean, unless someone asks. But I did notice that was common with some of the horror stories, was that there was alcohol involved.
You know, I think it just takes off the edge for the
you know,
model or the photographer.
I agree, but I think another commonality is the comfort, and a lot of them would say it wasn't the first time that they worked with the guy, but it was like the third time when I guess
they got
'cause listen,
comfortable.
and I've seen this.
People be getting comfortable.
Listen, and I've experienced. And you talk about the idea of creating and what that is. There, and I know when you all, whether it's a set or it's a shoot or whatever, your likeness is on the line. Like this, you're hoping that this person captures you in a way that represents you in the best way.
Right.
And what I have found is that, like, I've done shoots where it was like at the beginning you can tell she was holding back. Maybe she wasn't sure. This usually only happens on like the first time that we've ever shot. And once she sees, oh, okay, so this person is capable of doing this in a way, then they start to relax, and then start to become even more expressive. And I think what happens is sometimes guys will read that relax or looseness as, oh, so she's feeling me a little bit. Let me take my shot. You know, because again,
and also you're at work, so I'm a little confused as to like what shot is to be taken while working. Like that doesn't even make sense.
Well, so for them, so the way it would be, because again,
shoot your shot after.
Okay, so this is how it would be. Trust me, this is how it would be. And again, I don't know if anybody that I've ever worked with has ever felt a way about me, because I'm not even thinking about that. But I would notice sometimes that the body language would become more comfortable, in that, whether it's how close they are with you, and for some people they would get like even touchy, because again, they're excited because of what you were able to capture them as. Yeah. And for some people, they express that excitement with
boundaries being
kind of, and maybe not even in a way that's like, okay, wow, you're too touchy, like, but just like, oh my goodness,
or like
and
hanging on somebody.
Yes.
That's like,
and again,
Yeah.
but again, a lot of time, and then if this happens after you've just done a shoot, then who knows what she's even dressed up, you know. So then you take all that in, and then if you're not thinking professionally, then you might think, oh, that's what this is.
For me, it's a little confusing, because I'm just like, that's not fair.
I understand.
I'm just saying that's not fair, because at that point you want someone to be comfortable in a space enough to be like, oh my gosh, yes, we're cool. I'm not worried about things. Right. So as soon as they let that guard down, for you to assume that that's because they like you in a different way than what the space is actually calling for, that actually makes no logical sense.
Right. Also,
they're taking advantage of that vulnerability.
But are you gonna react the same way? Like, let's say the shoot is a tasteful nude shoot or lingerie or bikini. Are you gonna do, like, what if she loosens up when she's taking headshots? Like, are you saying that, you know what I mean? Like, would the photographer feel like, oh, yeah, now she, like, listen, I think what I'm thinking is that you're talking about like the nudier shoot.
I am not
that guy. Now her body is here, and then she's like this.
Not even putting that on you, but
I'm only reporting. I'm only reporting what I've heard. So I'm.
But are these perspective asking for
that would be my guess. That would be my guess.
Those are you reporting for? What type of shoots are we talking about?
I don't think they were ever specific on what the kind was. I just think in general you're probably a guy who is sitting next to an attractive woman. whether she's fully dressed or not, you know, because you don't have to be naked for me to holler at you. You could have a jacket on, and I think you look, you know.
But then that's workplace etiquette at that
Right.
course.
I think in general
period.
that none of that needs to go down on set. I don't
Of
care
course.
if she's like leaning on her arm, be like, "Oh my gosh, I love the picture."
Do you want to get fired or not?
Keep it right
course.
there, and that like great.
I mean,
she's more comfortable. Cool. I'm not gonna do anything else.
And for me, it was actually the flip, because I don't know all of y'all, so I try to do the best to put myself in a spot where I'm safe.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I would ever want to hear is that something went down in a spot when it didn't, but it's just my word versus hers.
Right.
So, you know, you're changing. Let me get out of here.
Yes,
I don't want to be.
yeah.
I don't want to be
Smart.
around here.
That's how.
And
Or
just
like if we're
respectful to-
shooting, I would like that's why I would love when there was hair and makeup there. Good, because I would like to have more eyes. Let me go over here.
You should always have a third party, I feel like, just to be safe, just to say like somebody else saw what was happening, and
Yeah.
there's a neutral person who can say what happened.
Because again, like you say, the word goes around, and you would never want to have that attached to your name.
Yeah.
Which is why the same way, you know, you talked about with, you know, me having words, you know, positive words about you. I know that's what helped with a lot of the black skin shots that I did. Is, I mean, I understand that it's a lot easier to agree to work with a person if someone who you trust says, "Oh yeah, he's cool."
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to honor that if I'm dealing with someone else. One, because that person has made themselves available, so I want to respect them. But then also, now your rep is on the line because I referred you. So then if I say, "Yo, this guy does great at washing cars," and then when he comes to you, he does a terrible job, then you're going to come back to me and say,
Yeah.
what are you talking, you know?
Right.
So I understand, you know, so I get that dynamic. And, you know, I'm trying to, as I'm trying to learn the craft, I'm also trying to understand some of the politics that go on under, not even just the politics, just some of the etiquette, the unwritten rules. Because again, you could be great at what you do, but you could still be blackballed if you're known for being, well, like you said, there are disrespectful people who are working. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna cancel you. But I'd rather not have that be a thing that someone can hold against me. Is that, you know, this guy's not a nice guy to be around.
Yeah,
you know?
a lot of people, men, women, are trying to get their like ulterior motives met while at work, and so the issue is like your ulterior motives, your sneakiness, like you trying to shoot your shot, like do it out of the workplace. But so many people want it done while they're working because they feel like they can get away with it because of hierarchy or whatever the case may be. Like that's often what I have seen, and people succumb to it just because they're like, oh, I have to be nice in this space, which is also an interesting thing to see. I do not get it, but I do get it. I'm like, if I'm at work, let me just do my job.
I feel you. It seems as simple as that. But yeah, that's the way it should be. So I don't know. That's the way I try to, you know, being on my end of the camera.
Yeah.
Because I think in the end, because I care about the final product the most, I feel like all of that other stuff is gonna affect what comes through there.
Right.
So that if you got something else, if you're not comfortable, if you're feeling something, you got an argument with somebody over there or whatever, that's probably gonna make its way into what I'm recording. You know, so for the sake of the art, I feel like it's just better to have the I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a set that people are on their toes, because, you know, but you don't ever want anybody to be in a spot where they feel like they've got to watch their back, you know, or that they, you know, they're being taken advantage of. So
they're uncomfortable. I get that.
Yeah, that's
the nice thing about working on a set. There's so many rules that it's like you can only go but so far when it's SAG involved.
SAG.
Because they will come get you.
So I'm not a part of any guild. I've been told that I need to be a part of one.
Guild?
It costs a lot.
Costs a lot.
The director guild is expensive.
I don't know how much it is.
It's more than the actor one.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
How much?
I think. Well, this was a couple years ago, but it was a few grand. I don't know if it was quite 10, but it was up there.
I remember when I joined SAG, I was I had just come from New York to LA, and I was loving not being a part of SAG because you can do non-union work and union work, so I was just fine. And I didn't realize, and also I had done so much SAG work as a dancer, I didn't realize how much actors were like thirsty for SAG work. So when I came out here and I was like frivolously talking about like, yeah, I mean, I've done a bunch of SAG parts, but I don't really want to join SAG. I don't. People are looking at me like, you know, the dancers understood, but the actors were like, what?
Yeah.
Like, they're doing. I don't even know. There's like you can build your credits to like get SAG or something
like
that.
3,
right?
And then you your must join or something.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Is it the same guild for dancers?
Yeah, it's Screen Action Guild. So, anyways, when the project came, actually, it was a David Fincher project.
Nice.
That forced me to join. I was the last I wasn't complaining, but the last little tit I had to say was to Marlon. I was like, I have to join SAG now and pay this money. He was like, if you want to play the big dogs, you got to play like the big dogs or something like that. I was like, you right. Pay my dues. Never late. Here we go. Here I am. So, yeah, I don't know. You got to join it. You got to jump in.
Just what it is. Just like...
Elevate.
Okay, so I got one more question. So since we're kind of seeing like this shift in the industry when it comes to whether they're sincere about it or not, this fight for inclusion, where do you see it going over the next couple years? Do you think we're closer to getting there, or do you think we've still got more than half the journey to go?
Well, I for one don't look at it as the cup half full. Or wait, half empty.
Half empty.
Stupid. I see the cup half full versus empty. I don't know. I don't really think so much about, gosh, you have so much farther to go versus like, oh wow, there's so much going on around me. Like I see people all around me that are of color being included, and directing things, and I just see the representation growing around me, which is at least hopeful. And I understand that it's way beyond my circle, and that there are many levels, and the very, very tippy top is still,
white
certain
on white.
people, white on white, that is sitting up there. And it's going to take a very long time to change, but it, for me, is very cool to see the amount of representation that is happening, at least at my level and that of above me. And even in the breakdowns that come out and what they're looking for, or commercials, like there's definitely more. Like you can't argue that there's not more. There's certainly more, and slowly but surely, I guess.
I agree. I feel like I'm excited for where we are now. I think I look at it as a pendulum swing.
Yeah.
But I don't know when the pendulum's. I'm like, when is the pendulum gonna swing the other way, and what's gonna happen? It's just like I don't know. Like, what's gonna happen when it swings? Will we have enough to sustain? Because it's.
But thinking of it swinging the other way, it's kind of, I don't know if I can think of. I can't really see it going back the other way.
And the only reason I say that is because I've heard it so many times from like people in the industry. Like this is a time. Yeah. And we have a moment.
Take advantage
so
of the
we
moment.
Need to take advantage of the moment and get as high as we can before it's
I mean, that's true. That's true. I can.
And so I'm like, okay, with this time that we have, I think that a lot of people are utilizing it in such a grand way that I'm excited, and we're building like I think we've always had like our BET, not always, but we've had our BETs and Centrics and things of that nature, or trying to. But I think that we're really like working towards being on equal footing, or we're being allowed to be on equal footing with people in spaces that are higher and having our own in that realm. So I think that is the awesome part. Now, the smaller spaces that are at the top, I think that is the goal. Yeah. So, and I think people are reaching for those goals very intently. It's just like, how much time do we have? How are we going to get there? And I think it's an important thing to look at, because we have to get there. In order to get there, we have to focus on like where we're going.
I love seeing that the head of SAG is black.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many people, and like so many VPs I've seen, and like different spaces are black. So I think we're on our way.
Some higher spaces are being occupied,
infiltrated. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm also excited to see like what it's gonna look like. Mm-hmm. I'm just open. I don't think I have like, I'm excited for where we are. I'm interested to see like what's gonna happen as well.
I think you just have to be present in the moment. Like, okay, this is happening. Let me take advantage, because you don't know. You never know what's coming next, and being present is the best way to live.
I think I'm the same, and I feel like, hey, if they want to give some black creatives a couple extra shots because they feel guilty about not having done it in the past,
then go on ahead.
I'm not going to turn it down. So
right.
But you know, I am also inspired by, you know, what guys like Tyler Perry are doing, where it's like, well, I mean, instead of waiting for them to open their doors for us, you know, why not build our own door?
He's a whole
and then, you know,
I love it.
Yeah.
And you know, so I'm all down. But like, it's the whole idea is about, you know, who are the gatekeepers. Those are the ones at the top, the ones that
those
are saying,
the ones who actually like create the pendulum, right?
Right,
so it's
right.
like, in order for us to stay in a space where this is so open and able, that's where you gotta like get to in order to in order for it to stay. Like, I need you to sit here so that they're not dictating like, oh, you're cool right now, let's keep you here, you know. But I'm excited because I feel like everyone is taking advantage, and we're so prepared when this time came. Like, we were all so prepared.
I've been so like really like right now, I love what we talked about, Peel and Coogler. It's funny, there was a USC did this little article on inclusion, and from like 2007 to 2017, they polled like the top like 1,000 movies, I think, that were made, and like 23 of them had a leading character that wasn't white. And 2000 and a little bit, and I believe 2017 was the Chris Rock Oscars Are So White year. And then literally the next year, that number doubled. And then boom, boom, boom. And then you had, you know, Coogler, who kind of did his thing, Peel, who did his thing. So I loved that. You know, when did Wrinkle in Time come out? Did that come out?
Was that the beginning of the year?
Right around that time, I think. But yeah, so and then what she did with When They See Us, and you know, so to me it's just I love that we were ready.
We were sitting here with
and I'm and like, so you mentioned Lovecraft. I don't know how I feel about Lovecraft yet, but I'm happy for it, because like you, I'm excited to see us not be in a struggle movie, a slave movie. You know, like, look at us we can do the thriller, we can do sci-fi, we are not monolithic. You know, there are a lot of different types of black people.
Yeah,
and still, you know, I was on a Clubhouse last night, and she was speaking in a room for the film industry, and
Ava?
she said, Ava said that.
Hey, Ava.
She was honestly saying like, things change, but it's not all the way changed yet, and you just have to do it on your own. She's like, don't wait, do not wait, create. Do not wait, create. Do your own projects, you know, invest in your own projects, make I was going to tell you this, actually. I thought of you last night when I listened to her say this.
Uh-oh.
She was saying that my advice for filmmakers is stop making shorts and do features, because the amount of money that you're putting into this short, you might as well just make a feature. Make a feature, do the whole thing, don't do the little short, go all the way, make the feature. And I thought of you last night when I heard that, and I'm here to tell you that today.
I did not think I was going to be read today.
Ava DuVernay, via me, has told you, make the feature. You heard it here first. I told him make the feature. What do you, get the imposter out your head? Imposter.
I didn't think she was going to read me like this today.
But I think people like her know,
sometimes it takes...
she's been in it so long.
Yeah.
Like, her name is Ava DuVernay now, but
and even
her story to me is...
awesome.
I love her story. This idea that...
waiting and ready. Barry Jenkins was also waiting
to
and
me,
ready with all this stuff.
I relate more to her than I do to, say, Ryan Coogler. Because, Ryan Coogler went to USC Film School. Yeah. And he benefited from everything that goes into being in that fraternity, And again, kudos to him. When he got his shot, he knocked it out every time. So I don't, just because you have been a little bit more privileged doesn't mean that you're not as good. But I love the idea that she didn't even do her first feature until she was like 30. And I think Barry Jenkins was working at like coffee shops or something like that. And he's made 2 of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen in my life. And it's like, there's no one way to get there. We're at first, and like you said, it's different than maybe it was 20 years ago. It's like the only way you can really make it is you had to go through the studio system, and it was so hard to get into that if you weren't somebody's cousin or something like that. And now it just seems like with the advent of all of these social media platforms and things like that, Issa Rae putting up her series on YouTube, and then HBO giving her money to make a series, it's just like... And
the only reason they would have been inclined to do that is because of the swing into, like, we want to see more Black faces. Like, how awesome is that timing? Like, that opportunity meets, like, the preparation. Because she's been working at this for so long.
And to me,
remember Awkward Black Girl from when we were in college. I was a freshman when I was watching it. Really, Jackie loved it, and I was like, "What is this thing that you love watching?" And I was like, "Wow, how great is it that you just shot this like random web series for yourself that catapulted into this?"
Yeah, the popcorn girl. You don't know who's in pop.
He's like,
"Fine,
Nikeva."
I've been guilted. And
you're gonna deal with this all day, like, God damn it! Keep told me I need to write a feature. I knew I had to write a feature. I heard that voice in my head.
I got a couple.
You thought of it before.
No, I do have.
See, this is an affirmation moment. This is what I was talking about. There are moments like this that happen.
My idea, and again, this might be my short cutting, but the way I had always thought about it is do the short with the feature in mind, and then use the short to pitch for money to do the
feature. About it that way too, but I mean, at this point, just go for the home goal.
Yeah, that's literally what someone asked that question last night, and she was like, "Go all the way."
Now you know. Do you have your feature done?
And because you know what, you especially, I'm gonna read you some more. Look at all the ideas with the shorts that you have had that haven't seen the final culmination. So you already know that you can do the short that can be a feature, like, because that's the way you think. Oh well, I can start with this and I'll pitch this. Just do the thing and put all your time into that thing and make it the thing and pitch the feature.
And you'll enjoy the process and the like what we're talking about in terms of creation. Like, writing that feature will be like so life altering. It takes so much out of you, like. And you put so much of yourself into it. Like, that is the process that you enjoy, which will lead to it being something for other people to enjoy. Like, the shorts
halfway done with one.
Bigger.
Aren't you writing one?
I finished.
See? There you go.
How many pages?
It's 98 at this point, but it keeps
That's
getting
great.
shot.
I'm proud of you.
I'm on page 55.
That's dope. It started we got to 120. With the editing process, you just keep.
When did you finish?
I finished at the end of season 1 of American Soul.
Oh, so I knew this. What did you shoot last year?
I shot a short from the feature, but I finished the feature
first.
first.
So that was part of the feature. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I get it now. So she still wrote the entire feature and then shot a short of the feature. Because that makes sense. You know, maybe you can't shoot the whole feature, but she still has the whole follow through there and ready. So that if someone's like, okay, here's the, well, guess what? Here you go. Here's the full feature screenplay. Boom, done.
And that takes so much work that you just want to focus all into it. Not that I know anything about that part of filmmaking like that, but I do know that a feature takes a lot of time and effort to the point where you want to have that like packaged so nicely, so you don't even have to think about it later. Because to have the short and be like, oh, someone loves it, and then not have the feature, like that's a year's worth of work of like chopping down and editing and like figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and then when it comes to studios, like you just want to have it. There you go, I'm done.
We love inspiration.
Well,
an inspiring moment. You never knew it was going to come to this.
I'm excited for this feature, friend.
I'm going to spend the rest of this day sulking, looking at the
sulking.
Look, you know.
No, inspired.
No, this is my process. No, I go through a process that's similar to a flight of stairs.
Okay.
So I have moments in which I feel like I plateaued, and then I hit a wall when I feel like, yep, well that's it, and then I generally have a burst of
energy,
creative energy, and then so I'm gonna sulk first.
Damn, I really should do this.
If you know,
and then I'm gonna be.
Why don't we bypass the sulking since we're aware of what we're doing?
The end result might not be as good. I think that's what it comes out on. It comes out on the page.
Okay, gotcha. We need to sulk.
It comes out on the page.
Got it.
But the sulk sounds more like.
It's not really sulk.
It's like just, I know I should do this. I know I should do this.
It has to do with me wrestling with myself.
Yeah.
And then
the imposter.
Then eventually the creative usually wins, and then says, what's the worst that'll happen? Just do it.
Yep. Great. We look like we went through our sulk talk right now.
Why not?
Why not? Why not you? Why not me? And on that note.
Well.
We're concluded.
We had this plan the whole time.
She's been Iantha. She's been Nikeva. I've been Antonio.
Down with a sock of the tail. So much for seeing me fail. Wherever you see how we sail. Click on infinity, can't let them get to me. Fly like a bat out of hell. We got that fire, pull up on that liger. Yeah, I had to back out of hell. Down with a sock of the tail. So much for seeing me fail. Wherever you see how we sail. Click on infinity, can't let them get to me. Fly like a bat out of hell. We got that fire, pull up on that liger. Yeah, I had to back out of hell. Guess who back in this bitch? Never lag.